God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. The theme, you learned it yesterday, continued on today, contrasts. The book is 1 John. The person is John the Apostle. In the Gospels, he was known as, Jesus labeled him as sons of thunder, him and his brother, because, man, they were just fireballs, hotheads. He was also one that when some Samaritans, people of a different race than him, that there was some prejudice going on and they were harassing Jesus, he just looks at Jesus and says, hey, do you want me to call down some fire upon these people? Like he's just this fiery hothead of a disciple, probably the youngest of all 12 of the disciples. But then there's this contrast in his life because he's also known as the disciple whom Jesus loved. He's also known as the one who, when Jesus is hanging on the cross, he's entrusting his mother to the Apostle John. And he says, mother, behold your son, and son, behold your mother, that he's tender enough to care for the one person that Jesus still had in this life, his mother, here at his last moments. 1 John is no different. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine said that if the book of 1 John, this little letter that he wrote to the church, if it was an Avenger, it would be the Incredible Hulk. That's what the book of 1 John is. Because here you have, Bruce Banner, this mild scientist and, pretty meek, and then you push the wrong buttons in him, and what happens? I mean, he greens up, he bulks up a little bit, and he just starts smashing everything in place. John is a little like that. He's older when he writes the letter of 1 John, and he's got this thing that he does to where he's calling them, the church, his dear children, his little children, because, he's kind of like this father figure or a grandpa figure. He uses the word love 46 times in the 5 short chapters. It's like once every other verse, he just spews out love constantly. But then at a drop of a hat, you just push the wrong buttons and he turns into this theological monster and he just bulks up, and all of a sudden, John is smashing everything that's wrong and inappropriate all over the place. And so he's smashing unbelief, he's smashing rebellion, smash fear, smash false teaching, smash idols, and smash darkness. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. Today's contrast is light and dark. We love the dark sometimes. We really do. As a matter of fact, you can finish this statement. We'll just see if y'all love the dark, okay? Finish the statement. We love dark when we don't want to be seen. We love the dark when we don't want to get caught. Oh, you guys are big sinners, aren't you? Yeah. We like the darkness when we don't want to be seen. We like the darkness when we don't want to get caught at all. We love the dark. As a matter of fact, how many of you ever snuck out of your house? Raise your hand. You can confess it now. We'll give you a chance to repent later. It's all good. All right, so you've snuck out of your house. Did you do it in the light or did you do that in the dark? I bet you did it in the dark for the most part. Why do you need to sneak out during the day? Absolutely, okay. They say that there's been experiments done with cheating in schools, and more people cheat in a dimly lit room than they do if it's a well-lit room, because we like the dark and we don't want to get caught. As a matter of fact, most of your premeditated crimes, car theft, murder, rape, all of that stuff primarily happens in the dark because it's premeditated. They plan, and so they don't want to get caught. They've got to stay in the dark. Porn sites are most trafficked between the times of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Is it light then or is it dark then? It's dark. We love the darkness when we don't want to get caught. We love the darkness when we don't want to be seen. And the same is true in our spiritual community and in our social communities. We like the darkness. We don't want to expose our personal darkness to the light and to other people, because we don't want anybody to see that. We don't want anybody to catch that. We have that stuff that's going on in our life. It's humiliating, and therein lies the contrast. That's where our contrast comes in today. Because God's children are characterized by light. Are you in 1 John? If you're not familiar with your Bible, it's okay. You open it up, you open up that app. We'll always be in the Word every morning. Have it here, have it ready to go. Brother, don't stare at me. Get into the Word. Make sure you open it up to see if what I'm saying is true. It's one of the last books, like you could turn almost all the way to the book of Revelation. We're getting close all the way back there. And in 1 John 1:7, he shows us this contrast. He shows us what it means to be children of the light. He says, but if we walk in the light as he is in the light, meaning Jesus, but if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. If we walk in the light as he is in the light, then we have fellowship with one another in here, in this place, in the church. And the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. We get purity out of that. God's children are characterized by light. And how do you know? How can you know this week if you're one of God's children who is characterized by light, or if you're one of, the people that are walking in darkness? How do you know the difference between light and dark? You know it here, but do you know it here? Well, 1 John helps us with that, and that's what we're going to be walking through all week. There's the belief test, there's the obedience test, and today's text that we're going to look at is the love test. Light is proven by love. Light is more than just a metaphor, and it's more than just a prop that you could turn on and turn off. We know that actual light exists. It exists outside of our body. Your science class has taught you that when light happens, when you turn on light and when the sun is shining, that it reflects off of objects and then it goes into our eyes so that we can see it. This light exists. My good friend who I teach with at Ozark Christian College, his name's Michael DeFazio. You've maybe met him or seen him before. DeFaz, he's awesome. I love that guy. He's got his Harry Potter glasses and everything. But as we were discussing this and helping each other with this, he had taught me that the ancients, people in John's day, that they believed a little bit differently about light, that they didn't separate their spiritual and their science. They kind of combined those things together, and the ancients believed that light exists from within. And it comes out of our eyes. And it's obvious who walks in light, and it's obvious who walks in darkness based on their actions. And so how you act towards the people in front of you is the best measurement of what's going on inside of you. I'll say that again. How you act towards the people that are in front of you is the best measurement of what's going on inside of you, whether you're a child of the light or you're a child of darkness. Let's just look at another text. Look at 1 John 2, verse 7 through 11. You guys started on this today. You're memorizing some of it. As I read this text slowly, I want you to pay attention to repeated words. There's something in the scriptures that help you. If you have trouble understanding some of the main points, if something's repeated, it's important. If something's repeated, it's important. You know this from your mama, don't you? When she says, Billy, clean your room. In a minute, Mom, and you're playing your video games, you're texting somebody, you're just scrolling, you're just lazy, whatever it is. Billy, I said, clean your room. And her voice intensifies just a little bit. Then all of a sudden, she goes in full crazy mom mode. You know what I'm talking about? Any of your youth leaders here, are they moms? They know what that's like. Yeah, they're going to mom mode. Eyes turn into just bright flashes of fire. Feet turn into lightning, and they're so fast, and they're coming down the stairs yelling at you, saying, I told you to clean your room, and you're like up and moving, because if something's repeated, it's important, not just with your mama, but also in 1 John. And so pay attention in 1 John chapter 2, starting in verse 7, what's the repeated phrases here? What are the repeated words? Dear friends, pay attention, our translations might be different, it's cool. Dear friends, I'm not writing to you a new command, but an old one, which you've had since the beginning. This old command is the message you have heard, yet I'm writing you a new command. It's the truth. Truth is seen in him and in you, because the darkness is passing and the true light is already shining. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates his brother or sister is still in darkness. Anyone who loves their brother and sister lives in the light, and there is nothing in them that makes them stumble. But anyone who hates a brother or a sister is in the darkness and walks around in the darkness. They do not know where they're going because the darkness has blinded them. What are some of the repeated words and phrases in here? Darkness and light. There you go. What else? Love. I heard somebody say it. What else? What's opposite of that? Hate. There we go. And then there's brother and sister and old command and new command. There's lots of things. He just kind of sings songs back and forth here. And it's all about love and light, darkness and hate. And so we've got to have a test. I mean, if how you act towards those in front of you is the best measurement of what's going on inside of you, then you've got this text. You're doing just fine. Because how many of you hate people? How many of you hate the people around you? No? Then you're all good. Sermon over. Let's go. Let's just put it to the test. As a matter of fact, just stand up right now if you love God. If you just say you love God, you don't hate God, you love God. Well, looky there, looky-loo. Go to a Christian conference and look, everybody loves God. All right, sit down. One more for you. How many of you consider yourself a loving person towards other people? How many of you consider yourself a loving person towards other people? You don't necessarily always get it right, but overall, you're a loving person. Well, looky there. I see hugs. I see bro hugs with 3 taps on the back. That's nice. All right. You can sit down. Sit down. So love. We say some weird things sometimes, especially as Christians, and when we say them, it sounds right, but then it doesn't necessarily make sense. For example, I remember somebody telling me, like, don't lie, you're in church. And I'm like, what? So I can just go home or go to a grocery store and then I can lie to you? Okay. I guess that's what I'll do. What? You can't lie at church. You can't lie outside of church. It's not good. And I remember when I was younger and my mom, I said, I just hate that kid. She's like, don't say hate. I strongly dislike him. You ever said that? You know what I'm talking about? I don't hate him. I strongly dislike him or her. Well, that person, what do they hear? I think they hate me. You know, it's dumb. And then we kind of overuse the word love, and we don't always distinguish between love, and it's just a context of how we're using the word love that kind of makes the difference there. You know what I'm saying? And so I love my wife, Lisa. I've loved her for a long time. I love my sons. I love pizza. I love my little dog, Chewbacca. Like, I love all of those things, and I love them in different ways. I don't put pepperoni on my sons, and I don't make out with my dog, even though he tries. No, I love my wife in a certain way, so I make out with my wife in a certain way. I love my boys in a certain way, and the context of how we're using the word love, or even then on the opposite side of that, how we're using the word hate, it really kind of makes a difference. In John 2, this text that we just read clearly defines love and hate as a contrast. And he uses these strong contrasting words because the way that we interact with the light of God determines whether we love God or hate God. The way that we interact with the cross determines our love. The way that we interact with other people really determines whether we're a loving person or not. And can I just be honest with you? I don't think we're nearly as loving as we think that we are. We're not as loving as we think we are. We don't love as well as we think that we do. We love in a moment. We love when we're emotionally stable. We love selectively. We love conditionally. We love based on our pride. We love based on our own self-promotion, on our popularity and what we can get out of that. We love when it's convenient. We love our particular addictions. We love based on what I can actually get out of others. And we would never say it, but once you start searching the depths of your heart, you can look to see whether your heart is truly walking in the light or if it's walking in darkness. We don't love as nearly as well as we think that we do. We say things like, I would lay down my life for my friends. I would lay down my life for Jesus. I would lay down my life for my family. Well, we could say that love would compel us to do that, but love is not saying that we would lay down our life in the big things. Love is manifested in the little daily decisions of how we choose to love other people. And the way that we love other people reflects what's going on the inside and how we really love God. Do you think the only way to express whether you love God or not is based on whether you run up here with other people in worship to sing? I've watched people run up here and they're taking selfies of themselves worshiping. Let's think that through. Who do they really love there? But let's not just criticize the selfie people. I mean, do we really love? In the little daily decisions, I mean, love is choosing a seat based on who might need a friend rather than who you wish you were your friends or who you wish could help you climb some sort of social ladder or popularity status or whatever it might be. Love is not burying your face in your phone when you're bored or with the conversation or you're trying to avoid somebody who's not as cool as you. Love is hanging up the need to always be right or always get the last word with other people, so that you could show them how smart you are or how good you are. Love means that you take yourself out of the center of attention. And so we run our mouths so that people are looking at me. Love means that you open up because you don't want to be the center of attention, but the people need you that are there. Love means not pouncing on the weak with your sarcasm at their expense. Yes, you could get a laugh, but you actually hate that person, and you're going, no, that's such a strong word. Guess what? You don't get to define the word love and hate in the context of what John is saying here. Because the absence of love here means there's some hate. And yeah, everybody laughs on the outside, but then what's that person that you've just cut down with your mouth because you have a sharp tongue and you can't keep it under control, and you like a good laugh? What are they doing on the inside as they're laughing on the outside? Love means when mom asks you to do something, you do it. Love means that you respect your siblings, younger ones and older ones. Yeah, but you don't know my family. You don't know the way that my mom acts or my dad is. They're not Christians. They don't do this. They don't do that. Then you need to love them all the more. Why is it when a complete stranger calls us on the phone like a telemarketer, we're like, hello, how are you? But then with our brothers or our sisters or our mom or our dad or whoever it might be, we're the most vile, venomous people out there. Why do we treat the people that we supposedly love the most in the worst possible manner? Why is that? And we make no apologies for it. Maybe we don't love nearly as well as we think that we do. We use people in the name of love for self-promotion. When love is conditional based, I will love you if you do this. I will love you if you give me that. I will love you based on what is in it for me as long as I could get something out of it. Then John says we walk in darkness and we are not children of the light because we care about ourselves. It's always me, me, me. Come on, guys. Love is when you value all women. Love is when value is given to all women, not just the ones that you're attracted to. It's just true. Hateful darkness is treating any girl who does not fit your type or who is not going to give you what you want. When you want, you treat them as trash, or you just treat them as the invisible. You don't believe me? Am I too extreme here? Then ask the girl who you've known for years and years and years. They've been a part of your youth group, you grew up with them at school, and they've never once had a meaningful conversation with them because they don't look the part that you want. Ask them, and you tell me who's walking in darkness. Ask the girl who needs an actual friend, but you just hit on her day after day after day because you lust after her body, and maybe you hope once one of your pickup lines means that you actually have a chance with her. But she just needs a friend, and you refuse to be that. You look her up and down instead of looking her in the eyes. Oh, but girls, love is when you stop letting mean girls speak into your friendships as the example of the way things are supposed to be. You're so desperate, and so you do unholy things. Whether that's you're flirting to get what you want, or you're competing for men, or you're competing for popularity, or you're competing for your looks, or so you'll cause drama. You'll cause gossip. You'll start backbiting. You'll start eye-rolling. You'll start sabotaging other people. It was just in utter disbelief when a young lady in my youth group spoke up one time publicly and said, I always have to be the skinniest girl in my friend group so that they'll pay attention to me and not them. She's revealed the darkness in her heart. The best measure of what's going on inside of you is how you're acting towards the people that are in front of you. Love means that we serve others. Love means that we serve others even when it's not selfie worthy. Love means that we serve others in complete secret, as Jesus instructed us to do. We don't want all of God's glory. We just want enough of his glory that we could get our own self-promotion. That's not love, that's darkness. That's hate. At Ozark Christian College, we're right next door to Christ in Youth. We're right next door to this organization. And I used to be involved, and part of my responsibilities were just organizing like service events and stuff there. And when I would ask them to get plugged in, when I would ask our students to get plugged in and help CIY with something, whether they're moving all of this equipment and stuff from one storage shed to a new building that they built, man, they would show up in droves. But then when I would say, hey, we've got to go down to the nursing home, we've got to go down there and we've got to love on old people and we've got to sing with them and we've got to pray with them and we've got to hear the same stories over and over again. And yeah, you might be asked to like change a bedpan, and yeah, you might have to, rub their sore, calloused feet or whatever it might be, and nobody would show up because their love is conditional. They won't admit it. I've had to have strong talks with several of our student leaders. And they've come to the light. They realize that their love is conditional, because I'll go help at CIY because I might rub elbows with somebody that could get me that internship or get me that job, or maybe I could be up here one day. But the old people give me nothing. And so tell me, do you love as well as you think you do? It's easy to say it on the outside. It's hard to actually examine your heart, which God sees. Love, though, needs to be brought back into the here and now. Is your love for your youth group conditional and selective? Ask yourself that just based on here, this week. I mean, do you run up front and you leave others behind? I mean, this is the context of 1 John 2. He says brothers and sisters over again, fellow believers, as you were memorizing earlier. The context is the church. The context is the people that are sitting around you. When room selections and your youth pastor hands those out, do you demand that you choose your own so that you could be with the person that you want and you're not with the annoying kid that actually needs somebody? Are you nice to someone who's lower than you on the social ladder? As a matter of fact, love just doesn't wait around for you to be nice to somebody on the social ladder. Love doesn't wait around for you to get your pats on the back for your youth pastor to take a picture. Oh, look at him. Look at her. They're hanging out with the awkward kid. They're hanging out with this kid. They're hanging out with the new person, and you're eating that up, being, just self-glory. No love that's there, because love does not have a social ladder in the church. There is no popular or unpopular. There is no cool or uncool. There is no seniors who think that they're king and everybody else is their paupers, and these freshmen who are twerps and we could just put down all the time. There is none of that. It's stupidity. You're driven by high school semantics rather than being loving in the light. There's just none of that stuff. And so you tell me, what do you do? How do you act? There's no social ladder because everyone brings a ton to the fellowship table. Or are you too blind to see it, or are you too self-absorbed to want it? A friend of mine, he was in 8th grade at the time, little guy Josh, sitting in camp. It's youth group time at their camp, junior high camp. They're all getting squirrely and everything. And finally, the worst kid there, Hollis, just started. He's been lashing out all the time. He was stealing stuff. He wouldn't play the games by the rules, always mouthing the deans, always mouthing the people that are there. And just constant. Finally, in youth group time, as the youth pastor's trying to lead it, and everybody's giving these stereotypical answers. Oh, I need to be more loving. I need to read my Bible. I need to pray. Hollis all of a sudden just laid it out there about how both of his parents are in jail for several years, and he hasn't seen them in a long, long time. And he misses his mom, and he misses his dad, and he doesn't understand why they were dealing drugs, and he doesn't understand this, and he doesn't understand that. And then one kid piped up and said, oh, so is that why you act the way that you do? Another kid said, hey, we're going to be late for canteen for snack time. And all the while, Josh is sitting there, tears rolling down his eyes. And he just speaks up to his youth pastors and said, if nobody else will be his friend, I will. And he lost friends over it. Come on. Your youth group needs you. Good, bad, in between. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're blinded by selfishness. CIY gives you the opportunity to get a whole lot of garbage out on the table. And many of you that are veterans, you're repeat offenders here, you know exactly the way it is. You treat CIY like a drug sometimes. You come here so you can get high, and you go home, and you come down off of that high, and you go right back into normal life. And I know I'm starting out hot and heavy today, and I know that it's like just there, and we don't even know each other. There's no rapport here, but it is what it is. The text is what the text is, and I just got to ask you, do you love or do you hate your brothers and sisters? And you keep thinking, well, hate is such an extreme word. Come on, Bob, I don't have to be friends with everybody. Do you even want to try? Do you want to try? Why don't you ask the people who you ignore, who you see right through, who you're avoiding, who you're gossiping? Your crew needs you. They need you. What does your crew need from you? What do they need and what are they getting? Hate is not just being a bully. Hate is not just spewing venom out all the time. Hate is when you have the antidote and you won't give it to a sick or hurting friend. That's just as hateful. Hate is watching the chokehold on somebody's life, and they're hurting desperately, and they just want somebody to not run up to the front and just pray with them in the back. They want somebody to pull them off to the side and say, are you okay, instead of throwing accusations their way when they're lashing out. They need somebody like that. It's time to step up into the light and step up into or away from selfishness. It's time to step into the light and step up to love. I have a friend who was in my youth group, my last story, named Danny Billman. Danny was quite the unique guy. I met him, and the first time that I met him, he showed up to youth group, and a friend had invited him, and music just got him. He had a mild case of autism. And if you know anybody, friends or family members that have autism, you know the way that music drives them. And so our worship band fired up. There's 100, 120 kids or so. And then, they came down up front. They're doing their worship thing every Wednesday night. And Danny just decides to climb up on the stage. First time there at youth group. He just climbs up. And they come to a part in the song, and he just said, everybody throw up your rock fist. And he kind of talked like that, and he just goes like this. And like a bunch of Nazi drones, everybody just like went poof like this, and it was like, whoa. And man, he just starts banging his head. He always wore these super tight, like 80s metal hairband t-shirts, like Rat, Poison, Metallica, he just always had these t-shirts on. Yeah, Danny, just a cool guy. And that was our first time with them, and everybody kind of fell in love with him, became an honorary worship leader and stuff. And as some of his friends were sharing the gospel with him, he wanted to meet with me and talk about some things. And so we met up after school at a Burger King, and we're talking about Jesus, Bible's open. We're having this conversation when all of a sudden this lady just speaks up and starts yelling at Danny. And they're like, and she's yelling at him like, you get away from him. He's going to deceive you. And she's like flipping her lid. This is so weird. It was up in Portland, Oregon, where there's a lot of weird people anyway that we love. But, oh, man. And she's like yelling at him. Pretty soon she starts talking about how I'm going to be deceitful and I'm going to steal all of his money and then I'm going to do bad sexual things to him. Only she was like laying it all out there. And I'm like, whoa, ma'am. Little 15-year-old, 16-year-old manager comes out. Ma'am, you're going to have to calm down. She's like, shut up. And she starts yelling at him too, and she's just wigging out. And I still have this mental image that it's scary as can be. It wakes me up. Remember the Burger King freaky dude from the commercials? There was a window cling and she goes out to her car and she's yelling at Danny and I through this window cling. It just haunts me. And Danny looks at me and I look at him and I'm like, we're in the middle of sharing the gospel. And she just made a lot of accusations. Danny leans over and he goes, Bob, can I ask you a question? It's like, sure. Are you going to do any of those things to me? I was like, nope. He goes, okay. And then we just kept on studying, and his friend Jason later baptized him, and he went on some mission trips. And then his junior year, about a year after that event, a year and a half or so, we're at a Move conference. we're here, and it's a couple, like, second to the last night, youth group time. People are sharing. I'm leading and sharing, and it's going well. And Danny says to me, he goes, Bob, I got something to say. I want to tell everybody that I love them. I go, oh, man, Danny, that's cool. Like, we love you too. And sometimes we weren't always on the same page. And he goes, no, I want to tell everybody that I love them. I go, yeah, Danny, we love you too. And then, like, looking at the youth group, and they're like, oh, yeah, we love you, man. You're awesome, and everybody's saying things. And he's just frustrated again, and he just stands up. And he goes to each person who's sitting around in our circle, and he kneels down, and he grabs them by the shoulders, and he says to his friend Jason, he goes, Jason, I love you because you were the first person that ever was my friend, and you invited me to church, and you were the first person that told me about Jesus, and I love you so much for that. Thank you. And he goes to this next person, and he says, I love you because you always bring joy to this group. And there's been times where a lot of people are down, but I've watched you, and you go and you encourage, and you do this and you do that. And he goes to the next person, and I love you. And he goes to each and every person, and he has a very specific thing of what they bring to the table as a youth group. And he's drawing that out. And then other students start joining, and they're like, yeah, I love you for that too, and I've never told you that before. And it was exactly what the youth group needed. And everybody, when you're concentrating on you, me, myself, and I, and what can I get out of this conference, and what can I get out of it? No, God will give you what you need to deal with your garbage this week. You start looking at other people in love. You start looking at them, and you start feeding into them. And there was a girl who had just lost her younger brother in a tragic accident. He goes to her, and Danny's like, Savannah, I'm so sorry. And I wish I could have been there, and I wish I know the right things to say, but I don't know what to say. But I just love you so much that you're even here while you're mourning, because it was just 2 months earlier. He came to me, poured a lot into him. Bob, I love you because you didn't do those things to me that lady said in her. I'm not lying. That's exactly what he said, and he moved on, and it was a humble pill to swallow, because I'm like, that's it? Really. Hence my temptation to walk in darkness, that I needed to be the star of the show. We all wrestle with it. We all want to be in the spotlight. Sometimes the spotlight's the biggest place of darkness. It's time to step into the light. It's time to step up to love. You can love better than you ever thought that you could. Maybe we haven't been as good as we think that we are when we stand up to say, yes, I'm a loving person, but you can love stronger than you think you can, because the God who you serve, the God who is the light, and in him there is no darkness, will enable it. God is light. In him there is no darkness. You're the light too. And I hope today your youth group bonds together like never before, because God is light. And if you don't want the light, then you know your options.